record on. Recording in progress. All right, so basically, I forgot to turn on record for this portion. So what I'm going to do is yeah, I would turn on like 0.01, maybe 0.02 for the roughness in the windows. So if you're just joining us, I had forgotten to hit record when I did the thin wall for the glass in the interior. So what I'm going to do is start again. Just a real quick kind of overview. And basically, let me open the scene up again. Let's close out of Arnold. There we go. All right, so I opened a brand new default version of my lit scene. So for this, we are going to basically work on making our thin-walled glass for the windows. So the first thing we want to do is turn visibility on for them. They are in a display layer under Channel Box Layer Editor. Turn visibility on. Now, before I do that, let me do a quick render so I can see, just to make sure my scene looks right. There it is. I got my windows. They're not turned on, but I can see outside. Now, what I'm going to do is turn on my window panes. Let's open this up again and hit render. So when I turned them on, notice my scene goes black. That's because I've got no light coming in from my dome lights and no light coming in from my directional light. Now, the easiest way to select all the window geometry is to go to the display layer, right-click, and select Objects. And that selects all of the window panes in the living room, one in the door, and one in the kitchen. So now we can do Shift-T. We can add an Arnold AI standard surface. This is going to become window pane glass. And if I hit render again, I'm not going to see anything because we didn't make glass yet. So we're going to make these window panes the same way we would do normal glass. And the difference is going to be, since we don't need shadows, we don't need to worry about the gamma correct and the sampler info node. So we're going to use the same checklist that we had. So ideally, your reference images should have windows in them already. If you've gotten a living room reference, it's going to have a window in it, hopefully. And you should be able to see some bit of reflectivity for glass. So I'm going to kind of just do that part real quick. Let's see if we can find some reference for it. All right, so living room, oops, windows in the daytime. All right, and of course, you always want your tools to be on and you want to go to large. This one? This one. That's a room that's got some good reflections in the glass, though. So in theory, I mean, you could use that. What I'm looking for is just to be able to see windows from the inside looking out. How much reflectivity do I see? And I can see some reflectivity in there. So you know what? I'm going to kind of use that. All right, now let's go back. So we've already assigned a brand new AI standard surface to it. We've renamed it. So base weight off. Let's render while we're doing this. So base weight's off. We've got specular weight, specular color. They stay the same. Specular roughness, I'm going to turn that off for now. We're going to add a little bit later on. The index of refraction, it's glass. So now we're just going to go in and turn on transmission weight. So we turn on transmission weight. Now my light's coming through the windows, but I don't have my image. I'm missing my image. So this is caused by, let's take a look in the instructions. This is caused by the non-visible dome light. Even though it's not visible to the camera for the diffuse, it's got its own set of visibility for transmission. And now that we've got glass in the windows, it's becoming visible to our render. We don't want that. So in Arnold, we go back to our outliner. There's my non-visible dome light, going to select it. Under visibility, I want to turn off transmission. Non-visible dome light, turn off transmission, and now I can see my image outside the dome light. My visible dome light is now visible. But look how much refraction there is. That changes the whole look of the scene. So what we want to do is, we're going back to our glass window panes. So let's select them. So now we're going to go down to geometry and turn thin walled on. So now, as soon as I turn thin walled on, now my window is not refracting, but it is showing me reflectivity, transparency. It's basically giving me some reflections inside the room now. And I'm going to turn on caustics just like I would for regular glass. And I'm going to increase the indirect specular to 1.1 just to kind of push it a little bit. But now I've got invisible window glass that has reflectivity in it that behaves a lot more like our reference. So here's our reference. So you can see we've got reflections in here pretty much just like we have here. All right, so that's kind of a quick recap of where we're at. Hopefully that kind of made sense. Any questions so far? Diamond, Adriana, Jasmine? Yes, you do. Because if you don't, you're going to see the street light outside is going to be refracted a whole lot differently than your reference. So everything is the same for you that I just did, except you don't have two dome lights, so you don't need to worry about transmission visibility. You've only got one dome light. You want that to be visible because that's got your image in it. If you turn off transmission visibility, it'll make that disappear. So yeah, if you're working, so for example, here, say again. That was turning off transmission visibility. It's right here in the instructions. Did you turn off the transmission visibility in the non-visible dome light? That means maybe you didn't set your project correctly and your image is missing in the visible dome light. So one way to test that out is, so if I go to my visible dome light, which is right here, and if I turn off transmission visibility, I get reflections, but the whole thing turns black. So also in your visible dome light, go up and check, make sure the image is plugged in. You might have to replug it into the path. Okay. So Griffin's good. Josh, any questions? Jose, L, Damien, Allegra, anybody got any questions so far? Everybody good? Griffin's good. L's good. Eel's good. Damien's good. Jose's good. Allegra, any questions? The example didn't have window reference. I'm not sure what you mean, Allegra. Oh, your example, your reference. So go find some reference. Just like I did. Just so you can know and you can say, hey, you know, I've got reference for everything I'm doing in my scene. All right, let's see, what else did we want to do? Oh, yeah. Stop that. Let's turn this back down. Turn that off. Oh, yeah. And I've got this on. Let's turn that off. And let's do a save as before anything happens. Then I'll answer your question, Allegra. All right, good. Okay. So the example should not be suitable turn in, right? Example, I don't know what you mean by should not be suitable turn in. If your reference, so your reference for your, I'm assuming the bulk of your scene, and like you've got reference for the window frame and all that, that did not have glass in it. Is that what you're saying? So where's the reference for your windows? I don't see any window reference here or door reference. So you need that. You've got windows, you've got doors, you've got material on the windows. We need to be able to see where your reference is for doing that. Maybe we're not talking about the same thing. Can you unmute yourself?
The picture I sent isn't mine. It's the example on Full Sail Online.
This one is FSO.
Yes.
Okay. So, oh, the one here, yes, no, the one here should have reference for the windows.
Okay, so that's what I was asking about, like the example. I just kind of assumed that those were the references we needed, but
Nope, you need references for your stuff and everything. Don't assume that everything on FSO is perfect.
okay.
So yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. All right. So windows are in the window glass. Let's go and do a close-up of the desk. There we go. All right, so right here, our Klein bottle. Let's assign, well, we're going to make glass out of this Klein bottle, and let's go get some colored glass reference. Yes. It's right here. So for the interior, the vase will be clear. The hourglass, rectangle, Klein bottles need to be different colored glass. There's a wine glass on the table next to the sofa. That needs to be clear. There does need to be wine in the glass next to the table. So colored glass bottles. Inside, okay. Works for me. And tools, size, large. All right, avoid bottles that are painted. You want to have bottles that look like they are real glass. So these are good. These are really old time glasses. If you use reference like this, then you will need roughness in your glass because they are so old. But if you're doing something like, let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, yeah, the bottles should all be empty, no liquid in them. I know it's a real temptation because it's always cool if you have clear bottles and you put colored liquid in it, but our bottles are empty. See if I can refresh this and get a different set. So this isn't bad. I mean, it is a real environment. It looks like somebody's garage. They went outside and put some lights in. Those are painted? Let's see. Because you might be right. Glass packaging. How it's made. Oh, well, nice. Glass, various types of glass packaging. Wow, they really squashed that picture. Yeek. Well, it looks like a glass manufacturer. I don't think that's painted. Granted, probably not the highest quality glass. Avoid these magical matrix bottles. So that's outside. That's all fine and well, but really don't need that outside. We need inside. I could, but then I would what I'm trying to find is a lot of times if I have a generic search like this, it'll show me a bunch of bottles of different colors, and then all my color choices are there. Whereas if I do just the Klein bottle, then I have to go search for the hourglass and then I have to search for the rectangle bottle. But I could do that. Colored Klein bottle or a colored glass Klein bottle. I don't think it's going to matter. All right. Cute, teeny, tiny little Klein bottle. $95. Whoa. Whoa. Wait. I would just want a piece of glass. I don't want to take a loan out. Yeah. I like Klein bottles, but not that much. All of a sudden, my love of Klein bottles has diminished. Sure. So, color glass bottles inside. Let's look again. So that's a cool picture, but these are all too small. It's like 470. Come on. All right, bottles. Let's see. Yeah, that'll work. All right, so that's a large picture. Okay, nice. All right, so let's use this. All right, so the only thing is that image looks a little squashed, but I guess it isn't. All right, so let's pick one color for the Klein bottle. Well, we kind of did sort of green in the well, we did greenish amber in the exterior. So yeah, we'll do blue. All right, rock, paper, scissors, purple, blue. All right, blue. All right, so let's select the Klein bottle. Let's give it a new AI standard surface. This is going to be Klein bottle. Yeah. Yeah, that would work okay. I used them in the past. It's nice to see different search, different kinds of images. So I'm happy to have something different other than those bottles. This one? Oh, this one. Oh, you want to do that one instead? All right, okay, that's kind of tealy. Yeah, I like that. That's a nice color. All right, so let's go back to Maya. We've got AI standard surface assigned to it. Let's render this out. What I'm going to do is let's just crop this area right here and render. That'll save some time. All right, so you can see it's all bright. Let's turn the weight off. We found reference, assign the AI standard, turn the weight off. Specular weight, specular color. I'm going to turn my roughness down for now. Index of refraction, no problem. Let's turn on transmission weight. That's great. But as soon as I do that, I lose my shadow. So there's my shadow. There is no color in specular. Remember, specular is white. All that stuff is default. So at this point, we can go in and we can add in the color for the transmission weight. Now that'll give us our shadow back, but we won't get nice edges on it. But let's go in and load in that image. So I'm going to double click. Let's load our reference. And I think that's in my downloads. Bottles? Yeah, there we go. And let's sample that image back there. All right, so notice the value is really light. The saturation is really low. And that gives me sort of what I want. But let's work on everything else. So first off, let's take a look at let's do our shadow fix. So for the bottles, we still need to do, even though I've got color in it, which just like the wine bottle, we need an edge to that bottle. So we are going to plug the gamma correct into the transmission weight. So transmission weight, click the checker input button. We go down to utilities, we go to gamma correct. Remember, it's out value X to transmission. That'll turn it black. Next, we change the gamma X to 4. Y and Z both get 0. So gamma X goes 4. Y is 0. Z is 0. Almost done. Now, in the value of our gamma correct, this is where we plug our sampler info node in. So utilities, it's alphabetical. We go down to sampler. And then under the sampler info node, it's facing ratio, gets plugged into the value, but you have to expand it. And we've been using X value this whole time. So X, now we've got a shadow edge. And actually not looking too bad. So we got the color in there already. Let's go turn caustics on. Caustics are under advanced. And then indirect specular goes to what? Yep, 1.1. Caustics, indirect spec, 1.1. So that really kind of made it pop out now. And how does that compare with our reference? No, it's not too bad. Looks pretty good. We got a lot of dark going on back here. Let's look at it from let's check our render settings. Let's go down here under ray depth. So climb bottle has 8. So transmission is already set to 8. Transparency depth is 10. That's 10. I think we're pretty good here. Now, I might try, let's try specular at 2. So let me keep a snapshot of that. Let's try specular at 2. If I bump the specular up to 2, this has to go to 11. Now, the reason I want to do that is I want to see if I get any more light bouncing around inside the glass. If I don't notice any difference, yeah, actually, I do notice a little bit of difference in here. What's that? Yeah, it does look a little bit lighter inside. And that's really just light bouncing around a little bit more inside that glass. You know what I'm going to do? Let me keep this and let's try going to 4. So 4, that means I have to bump this up to 13, right? 13, let's keep this at, well, transparency. So it's not, might be able to keep transparency at 10. So you can see it adds a little bit more in there inside. It's what? Yeah, beautiful, right. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing you kind of have to look out for is, do I need to bump up the specular a little bit? Now, a lot of people just come in and crank them up. Oh, whatever I do to transmission, I'll do the same to specular. The problem is you might not need it. 4 is actually a pretty good setting because a lot of renderers will have a specular or reflective bounce of 4 to start. So actually 4 is not too bad. So I think I might keep that. Now that's global, so that'll go for everything in your scene. And that's why you really have to be careful here. Well, you leave it at 2, find out which gives you a better look compared to your reference. So 1 is probably going to be a little on the dark side. 2 is probably going to be a little bit better. Now that would help me to go back into the exterior scene because my edges of my glass were a little dark. If I increase that specular bounce inside there, it's going to lighten those up and make it look a little more realistic because real glass will let light in and it'll bounce around all over the place. It's just that for us, we have to keep a real tight control on it because if we bounce too much, then it's going to kill our render time. All right, so let me save this, and I'm going to get crazy here. Let's go 8. 8 and 8, 16, so that's going to be 17. This is going to be really extravagant. And honestly, I might not even notice a difference. All right, so this is, there we go. So that's my initial, that's that one. So this is this one that I have now. This is my specular at 4, and then this one is at 8. It gets just a little bit brighter. Is it worth all those extra bounces to get it just almost imperceptibly bright? No, honestly, it's not. So I'm going to pop that back down to 4, and let's just make this 13. That kind of tells me I've kind of reached a limit where I'm getting good results, but I'm not wasting bounces. Because remember, you've got an entire scene that this is going to happen to. Now you can definitely tell there's a difference between the default here. So this is 1, this is 2, and this is 4. Big difference between 1 and 4. That's why I kind of think 4 is like a sweet spot for reflectivity, especially for glass. All right, does that kind of make sense? Now, you may be noticing, when you go to do your final render, remember, always crop small areas, take a look at them. You may need to bump up the transmission, number of samples, and the specular. because that's where you're going to see noise. You're going to see noise in shiny areas and also transparent areas. All right, questions? Okay, Allegra says not now. Jose's good. Tristan, questions? Joshua, Griffin, Eel, Damien, Griffin's good. So some insane climb bottles are trying to find reference though. Oh yeah, there are. All right, so what I want to do right now is I'm going to show you, I've got reference for the table here. And I want to kind of show you my approach for getting the right level of reflectivity, the right roughness, and the color. It's a wood table. Because I happen to I kind of think that lends itself really nice to wood. And the reference I found is right along those same lines. Where is it? So project 6. Here it is. So this one kind of matches the table that I have there. So I kind of like the color, and you can see it's reflective more at an angle than it is looking at it straight on. So looking at it straight on doesn't look very reflective, but there's my reflectivity. And fortunately for me, this is sort of the same angle that my camera is at right here. You know, it's flipped, but it's still the same angle. So first thing I'm going to do is, now when I'm working on something like this, I like to work, honestly, I like to work without the color. And what I do is in the Mac preview tool, I go up to tools and I go to adjust color. Now in adjust color, I've got saturation. I can turn that all the way off. Now, before you close it though, make sure you reset it so that you get your color back. Because if you don't, unfortunately, the Mac preview program auto saves. And then you got to go back and re-download it. But if you're ever in doubt, just go in, make a copy of it, call it black and white or whatever. But I like to go in and I like to turn off the color. So now I can just focus on reflectivity and value. So what I'm going to do is assign a new AI standard. And let's call that computer desk. Computer desk. And let's see what we get. And what I want to do, you know what? I think I can get away with, let's just do this part right here. Come on, where are you? You rendering? What are you doing? Let's close that. Let's open this again. Let's do this. There we go. Okay. Now it's working. Whew. Boy, it's really like high maintenance. All right, so Level of reflectivity, well, it's got the standard AI standard level of reflectivity. It's pretty high. I do want to bring down my value though, because right now everything's getting blown out. So I'm looking here. Let's make it a little darker. Actually, you know what? Let me make it 0.18 like our default is. And honestly, that needs to be darker still. All right, so what I'm looking at now is my level of reflectivity, which is the default AI standard, right? I got the weight all the way up. The color obviously is going to be white. And I've got the default roughness in here. So this is where I'd go back and I'd adjust the roughness. So if I make my reflections too clear, they don't really match the reference. The reference has some roughness in it. For instance, it looks pretty rough near the base, but when it gets further away from the base of the object, it doesn't quite look as rough, which, well, let me keep this. Let's delete that snapshot, delete that one, delete it, delete it, delete it. Let's keep this one. And there's no roughness there. Let's go to the default of 0.2. Let's compare that. No, base color is on because it is a dielectric object, meaning it's going to get the color from the base. Remember, only metal has color that comes from specular, and only glass has color that comes from transmission. All other colors on all other objects come from the base or the diffuse color. All right, so what do we have there? So let's go a little lower. All right, so this is no roughness. This is roughness level of basically 0.2. That's the default. Let's keep that. Let's try 0.1. What I'm trying to find is a nice sweet spot between the roughness level I see here. What's that? 0.15. Okay, that's possible. Let's see. So this is 0.2. That looks a little too rough. 0.1. You know what? That doesn't look rough enough. So let's try 0.15. I like that idea. Okay, there we go. So that actually matches up pretty well. So now looks like I've got the value set okay. So now let me keep that one. So now what I want to do is I'm going to put my color back in my image. Let me reset that. And now let me go sample the color for it. And now when I get the color, I'm just going to take a look at the value I used, sample the color, and then I might plug that value back in because that gave me the good value that I wanted. So let me double click. Let's load in my reference. Reference. My leak table. There we go. And let's sample. Actually, let me Z back. So there is my weight. I want to get my value before I do anything. All right, so let's sample this. So I'm taking a look at my weight, and that's pretty much what I had. Oh, wait, my weight was 0.054. So notice when I sampled it, it sampled it really bright, but fortunately I had gotten my value adjusted. So let's try 0.054. And now when I drop that in, that actually looks like it gives me a pretty good average. So I got the color, but I'm using the value that I got. You know, maybe that needs to be just a little brighter, but that's actually not a bad match. Come back in, tweak it a little bit more. So I'm looking over here. The part that's in shadow matches pretty well. And it's kind of a good average color between the grain of the wood and the lighter areas between the actual wood grain. So that's kind of the approach that I like to take on my objects when I'm working on them. That way I'm not distracted by color. I get the value, get the level of reflectivity, get the level of roughness, then go in, throw the color in last. So in theory, I put this into my Photoshop template, into the black and white section, I'll get the value that looked the same before I added color. And it really kind of reinforces what you're looking at. All right, so I just did all that work, and now what happened? That's why you must click OK. Yeah, you click done, because then it disappeared. So, all right, let's go back. Let's sample this again. All right, anybody have any questions? That kind of makes sense? Yes. Yes. Okay, so the stand under the TV. Here we go. So you select it and basically you get everything, right? All right, so go into the outliner. Look at the entertainment center and you'll see they're all parented under the entertainment center, like the whole TV. So what you can do is you can middle mouse drag that group out so that now the entertainment center is separate. It's not parented to the TV. The light on the desk. Mean this? So Office Center, Pixar lamp. Right. So if you expand it, you can get the individual parts here. Because it's a group here, but these are all parts of the group. Wait, which part's still selected? Oh, down there. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, where is that at? Plate. There we go. Plate, screw, sockets. All right. So you can just simply select, instead of selecting the group, just select the individual objects. Yeah, honestly, the aluminum screws or these screws should be separate from this anyway, because they're all different parts depending on your reference. So just look for like desk arm lamp, and you should be able to see. Well, they're not parented together. They're only in a group. All these individual meshes are by themselves. They're just parented into that Pixar group here. It's not like the TV. The TV was a modeled, the entertainment center was a modeled mesh that the TV was then parented to. So it was a piece of geometry that had other geometry dropped on it. You guys should be familiar with parenting from 3DF. Yeah, so that's what it is. Yeah, well, and that's kind of why we leave this stuff, because you're going to run into this no matter where you go. Yeah, you should have reference for outlets. Because, I mean, you can have an accented color outlet. You could have an outlet that's been painted. You could have a plastic one that's, you know, got a. Well, that's not really built for that. That's built as an arm lamp. And arm lamps usually don't have glass or transparent shades. So just make sure that you've got the, let's see. I mean, they're basically meant so that the bulb doesn't blind you, because you can put it low and focus the light. So it's either all metal, all plastic. Like the reference I was using for the table, this has an arm lamp in it, which I could use for mine. Like it's got a hood that's not plastic, that's not transparent. But just make sure you know, whatever you have, just get reference that matches. It could be glossy painted. It could be. You could make it metal. You can make it anisotropic. That's a poor reference because it's got a white background. Did you? Okay, yeah. So, there's another one you could use. Yeah, it's always cool when you get to see, because usually you see black, you see white, you see metal color. You might see a brassy red metal look, but it's cool when you finally see like red or blue or orange or yellow colors. Ooh, nice mint green one, sort of like that. Or like this one. So, yep, that's all doable. All through the modern miracle of reference. Oh, yeah, well, and Maya too. If Maya lets you. Yeah, there you go. If Maya behaves. Well, I mean, it's Maya, so. All right, good questions. Thanks for asking them. That kind of clarifies it for everybody. So let's do one more pass. Diamond, you good? Any more questions? Yeah, you would need to add some more roughness, and don't get too obsessed about that waxy translucent. That's more like subsurface scattering skin. Well, yeah, then you increase the roughness until you get the level you want. For something like a candle, you may want to try increasing the base roughness a little bit too. Because remember that base roughness gave us a kind of powdery look, and that may help your candle get a little closer. But if it, if you turn it up and it doesn't really do anything, just get rid of it. Well, just remember for this exercise, the vase needs to be clear. Yeah, it's on the shelf. Right here. That's a vase. That's the hourglass bottle. Here's the rectangle bottle. And then here is the Klein bottle. No. No. The vase will be clear glass, but the hourglass, the rectangle, and the Klein need to be different colors. Well, here's the thing. Before you go through a lot of work, how much of those do you actually see? All right, so let me grab, where is it at? Couch, table, side table. Yeah, it's right here. Fruit bowl. So let's go into the camera and see. Can you actually see it? You might be able to see a little corner. Now, here's the thing. What's that? Only if it's visible in a reflection. And that's the reason we say, hey, look, even if the stuff on the table is not visible to the camera in the long shot, it might be visible in a reflection in the close-up on the computer desk. That's why it needs to have at least some kind of material and color in it. So if that were a close-up of the fruit bottle, then you could do all that detailed work, but it doesn't make sense to do that much detail to it when it's not seen. Think of it like modeling, level of detail, how close is it to the camera? You don't spend all your time modeling detail that's off in the distance, it's never going to be seen. Well, the shelf, everything needs to be. Oh, the bookshelf over here. Well, that's all fine and well, but for project 7, you're still going to have the same camera angles. No. Now, yes, there's a really good example. Suppose you make that picture frame over the desk a mirror. Then you have to worry about everything the mirror can see. Yes. Yeah. Good questions, though. All right. So let's see. Well, we're going to finish at 11. So let's come back at noon for lab. So good job, guys. Thanks for hanging in there with me. A lot of stuff to go through, but we actually got through it all. It's got a different shape to it. It looks like a fishbowl almost. So different shape, and it's also inside. So you're better off trying to find reference like a wine glass shape and interior, environment for that. Well, the wine, it does have liquid in it too. You can make it water. You can do whatever you want. Actually, I think in the requirements, though, for the interior, yep, the wine, clear glass, but the wine in the glass needs to be color. You can make it juice. You can make it apple juice. Just make sure that we can see through it. Yeah, just not too dark, because some grape juices are super, super dark. But just same requirements as the wine. You need to be able to see through it a little bit. It is, unless you like cut it with water, like 70% water. It's a brand of really dark. Okay, we're having an argument here about Welch's for everybody. So let's go Welch's. I think it's grape juice. There you go. That's how dark it can be. It is. Like when I was a kid, my mother would get this and she would like go, it's too strong. We're cutting it with water. So I always got used to drinking it with like 70% water. Yeah. Wow. I like your grandmother. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right, guys. So come back at noon and I will see you guys on Wednesday.